So, this episode is part of a 10-ish message series commemorating the 10-year anniversary of when I first started my business back in the spring of 2013. Each message features a lesson or a story or something worth noting, a theme worth anchoring in from that particular year. Some are more life focused, some are more business focused, some cover lots of time, some cover very specific moments of time, and there's absolutely crossover because time travel is a thing in this retrospective mode where hindsight's 2023. Know that I would genuinely love to hear your feedback, any insights or questions that come up as you're listening, and I'm absolutely open to requests for future episodes to go deeper on any specifics that you'd love to hear more about. Just take a screenshot and tag me at Nikki Elledge Brown as you're listening, or hit the link in the comment box in the show notes and let me know. All right, here we go. Things really shifted in 2016. I mean, coming off of the year of 2015 with such high highs anchored by such personal challenges in terms of solo parenting while pregnant, running the business, traveling, and all of that. Like, there were so many blessings of 2015 and so much business momentum. I joke that it's like Deacon was born on a live webinar because at the end of the year, I had done a live promo in December and then an affiliate promo and ended the year on this really profitable note. And then I had Deacon. And then Jeremy deployed again when he was only 3 weeks old. And it's cute that I thought I was going to deliver these workshops, create these workshops that I had pre-sold to my clients in November of 2015. I called it the Beyond the Site Workshop Series. So it was for A Course About Copy students, but beyond working on the website. So one is word pickles, like awkward conversations that you might have in your inbox. Social studies, where it's basically a course about copy, but for social media posts. And then Dreamails, again, a course about copy, but with an email focus. And I had pre-sold them. And then here I am in my 4th trimester with a newborn and a 4-year-old, and my husband is deployed. And I'm like, what the F was I thinking? How could I have possibly promised that I was going to record these workshops like in my spare time with all this extra energy that I have as my body's adjusting to having just given birth, breastfeeding a whole new human, and also making sure this little guy gets to his school on time most days of the week. It was cute. This was a season when I realized I need help. And even if I have a babysitter come over just so that I can take a nap, that's what I gotta do. And that's exactly what I did sometimes. Thank you, Kanani, if you're listening to this. I'm so grateful for the extra hands and heart that, and then our friend Val, she was married to a guy that was on Jeremy's boat. And so her kids were in school during the day. And so she would walk over and play with Deacon a few mornings a week before nap time while I got some work done. But even still, I was not going to be getting that much work done. And I actually didn't want to be getting that much work done. And that was alarming for me, as you can guess, considering how into my business I was in 2015. Things shifted. My values were shifting, and I wasn't ready to admit that or acknowledge it. And so I was trying lots of things. So the theme for this one is called Vegas with a Baby, because I was all over the map with this little guy. Thanks to my sister Stacy, who traveled with us, Deacon and I were all around town. And by all around town, I mean basically all of North America in his first year of life. So whenever we would travel, if there was an event where I was invited to speak or where a lot of my friends were going to be going, I would say yes if I could tack it on to a trip we were already planning to go home to Texas, to Houston, and visit family. We were on like a Houston to Honolulu hamster wheel where we would go, a couple times a year, one way or the other. And so in this year, we had an event at Aulani, which was local, which was so cool. I was so thankful that I was able to go to an event because it was actually on Oahu. And then we had a Vegas event, and we went to Austin, and we went to, that was 2017. Where else did we go? I went to Toronto. That was just me, my breast pump, and I went to Toronto just for a day because, again, when you live in Hawaii and then you're in North America, anywhere in continental US, then like everything seems close. So sure, Toronto for the day. We went to DC. We did the Naptime Empires photo shoot. We went to Scottsdale. And I was getting so much energy from people. Obviously, or I wouldn't have been doing this, but every event that I went to, as I mentioned, my husband was gone a lot. So it was like being able to meet people in real life that I had met online. There's just something so energizing still about that. And it's like I was forgetting that, or I guess I have. I mean, the pandemic happened and whatever, but again, that's the time travel crossover. That's the peek into the future. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're back in 2016. But the Vegas with the baby, the theme is like the literal ups and downs, and then also the figurative ups and downs, because we were traveling so much every few months. It wasn't like it was all back to back to back. And I was loving those times in my business. But then when I would be home and solo parenting, I just had like no get up and go for my business. I was like blank. It was like I have a whole Naptime Empires episode on this one called Biz Baby Blues, because I'm thankful I not that I know of that I haven't dealt with, postpartum depression or anxiety. And I know that's a very real thing. I'll also put a link for that in the notes just in case you might be going through it and you need some resources. It wasn't that though. It was just my business, which was such a huge part of my identity that it was shaking me to my core personally, because I was like, why don't I care? Why don't I want to just host more webinars or more affiliate promotions? Like I was disoriented and kind of confused. And that's actually when I started putting out feelers for the Naptime Empires conversation. And so Naptime Empires, the idea had come to me in 2014. I think I forgot to mention I actually had 2 miscarriages in 2014. So one was before May, or maybe it was May, then the second one was in October. That's key detail. Again, we'll get more into that in 2019 when I had 2 more, but that was key detail before we ended up getting pregnant with Deacon in 2015. But one of those times when I was pregnant, this phrase Naptime Empires came in as like a divine download. I wasn't trying to brainstorm anything. Like I really feel like it was given to me, and I didn't do anything with it until I started to mention it in 2016. I created this type form survey to let people know, like, hey, I'm exploring this concept. I want to talk about it. Big dreams, little roomies. What you got? Like, what are you challenged by? What are you nervous about? What do you wish you had? And whatever. And that's when the seeds were planted for the Naptime Empires podcast, which I started recording later that year and then published in 2017, which we'll get to next. That I was sure of. That I was inspired by. I didn't know what form it was going to take, but I knew the Naptime Empires conversation itself, that was the one thing I was sure of. But otherwise, I was just not into it, into my business. And it's really hard, and I wonder if you can relate to this. Please let me know in the comment box when you identify so much with your professional, like with your career, with your work, whatever it is. And then that changes and shifts by choice, or not necessarily by conscious choice, but by circumstance that may be beyond your control. And it's like, what do you do with that? And how long does it take for you to come and like snap out of it and realize, honey, things have changed. What do you want to do about that? For me, like I said, I was fighting it. That's like in denial. Let me just hire more people and spend my way into clarity or caring. Like if I have all these people, I have said it before in previous podcast episodes, it was like an orthodontist office up in here. Like I had so many people on retainer. There were retainers everywhere because I was trying to keep going, keep growing. We're 1 year out from getting out of the Navy active duty full time. And like I said, I was putting all this pressure on myself that I need to hit these certain milestones in order for that decision to make sense. It wasn't like it was just enough because we wanted to do it. I was like, no, I have to be making $5 million. It wasn't 5, but I would have loved to have been making $1 million a year or something by that time. So I was putting all this pressure on myself while not realizing I had just had a whole baby. And I've talked about this with friends and clients in the years since, where I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could just look back and just be like, honey, it's okay. Do you see what just happened? Do you see how my dad, whenever we were younger, he would talk about this like string of life. Like if you zoom out, what you're doing here in these years, in these early years of your life, is really going to affect all these years to come. And so I'm like, if you zoom out and you look at this timeline of your life, whenever you're welcoming a whole new human to your family and to the human family at large, that's a big milestone. That doesn't happen very often. So however that member comes into your family, just the new roomie alone and the new person in your family is huge. But also if you physically were pregnant with and delivered this human into humanity, your body is going through so much. But at the time, I was just so business goggles that I was like, yeah, but Naptime Empires, it should be fine. I had a kid before, so I can do this, And I was just really hard on myself unnecessarily, like just trying to keep that same momentum, but my heart wasn't in it, except for with this in-person travel. Vegas with a baby, like I said. And it's funny because, I mean, he was only a few months old when we went to Vegas. And like I said, this was only possible because my sister Stacy went with us. Otherwise, I would not have wanted to go because that would just be too much to try to meet him around the corner at the Venetian and, whatever. But we would rendezvous. That's exactly what we would do. So she would know, okay, he's going to be getting hungry. And then she would meet me. She's the actual, just the best. If you know her, she's the best. And so I'm so thankful that it was even possible because it fueled me. Like, I don't know if my business would have even continued if I didn't have those in-person mile markers throughout the year of 2016, because the online stuff just wasn't doing it for me. It was like I was craving real human connection. And then whenever I was home, I was still doing things. But like I said, the Naptime Empires thing, I knew for sure. And I did a course about copy webinars and welcomed some new students. But things were shifting and my heart just wasn't in going all in on this business as it was, at least. And that was really scary. So I was opening up, basically realizing my values were shifting, my identity was shifting. I was a little stubborn and having a hard time admitting or acknowledging it, but I was at least open to exploring what else was possible. Like I said, I didn't know what I would do with Naptime Empires because I'm like, there's no one right way to raise a human and there's no one right way to build a business. So I was actually nervous for a while to even claim it or name it because I was like, I don't want people to think that I'm saying I know everything or unsolicited mom advice. And I had so much gunk around that and then eventually got over it. Again, we can scroll back to Lucky Batch. And one of my favorite things Denise has ever written and said was about being a contributor to the conversation, not a guru. It's not like you're trying to say, I know everything about all of these things, but you're just contributing to the conversation. So finally, I gave myself permission to contribute to the conversation and to invite a number of my friends along. And the Naptime Empires chapter began. And that I do have a whole, speaking of Naptime Empires chapters, I do have a whole chapter in detail on the Naptime Empires Roadshow. At least that's what it's currently called. It's in the last part of the book where I'm sharing nitty gritty on deciding, are you going to go to an event or are you going to stay home? If you're going to go, are you taking the kids with you or not? And considerations for that, and how to be there when you're not physically there. Because FOMO is real, but also everything is a season. And sometimes it's just easier and more enjoyable and more fulfilling to stay at home and just, you can choose to block the hashtag of the event if you have too much FOMO and you're like, I wish I was there. Because you have to really recognize, what are you staying home for? Like, what are you choosing in? What are you not missing out on? What are you choosing not to miss out on by staying home if you don't actually go to an event? So that's just a little sneaky peeky of that actual Naptime Empires chapter. But in the meantime, I just wanted to catch us up to speed here. In 2016, the main theme here, Vegas with the baby, was I wasn't really allowing myself to play and enjoy this first year with the presence that I then was able to when we flash forward to my daughter's first year of life, because I was still trying to keep that same business momentum and act as if nothing had changed when everything had actually changed. And then the other piece, like I said, is really acknowledging, wow, I enjoy being around people. How can I do this more? And that's something that absolutely would become a theme and has circled back here in 2023 for sure. So 2016, Vegas with a baby. Coming up next in 2017, I'm going to actually do something with this identity shifting and allow it to spill over into my business, not in just what I'm talking about, but also in what I'm offering. And then we have our big move coming up from Hawaii to Texas. All right, I'll meet you there. Okay, technically that was the end of the episode, but since you're still here, one, I'd love to thank you for spending part of your day with me, and two, I'd love to ask you if you would take 30 seconds, maybe 60, to leave a rating and review in your podcast app before you tap out today. If you've already done that, it's amazing. Please send me a screenshot so I can thank you personally, and know that sharing this episode with a friend has the same magical powers, and I deeply appreciate both. Also, in case you're listening to the end to see if I ever actually introduce myself, hi! My name is Nikki Elledge Brown. I'm the host and author of Naptime Empires and this here On Her Terms podcast. You can find me around the internet at Nikki Elledge Brown in most places, but what you may appreciate most is actually over at onherterms.com. It's what I call the insider library. It's where you can get inside scoop, first listen rights, email updates every time there's a new episode, and then special insider only bonus content. It's all over in our private feed. Okay, that's a wrap for real. I'll meet you in the next episode.